Picture this. It's 2 a.m. in Moscow, and Russian military commanders are staring at their radar screens in complete disbelief. Something just appeared in their airspace that shouldn't exist according to everything they know about modern warfare. Their most advanced detection systems are showing impossible readings, and their defense networks are struggling to respond to a threat they never saw coming. What you're witnessing is the result of NATO's most classified military development project, something so revolutionary that it could fundamentally reshape the balance of global power. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on military secrets that have been hidden from public view for years. And what you discover might completely change how you think about modern warfare. For decades, military strategists have operated under certain assumptions about how conflicts unfold. Nations build bigger tanks, faster jets, and more sophisticated missiles in an endless arms race where superiority comes down to raw firepower and technological advancement. But what if the most decisive advantage in future conflicts isn't about having the biggest weapons, but about having weapons your enemy can't even detect until it's too late? What if NATO has been quietly developing capabilities that render traditional military thinking obsolete? Thinking obsolete. The geopolitical landscape we're living in right now is more tense than it's been since the Cold War. Russia's military actions have triggered a massive reevaluation of defense strategies across NATO member nations. Traditional deterrence models relied on the principle of mutually assured destruction, where both sides knew exactly what weapons their opponents possessed. This transparent threat environment created a delicate but stable balance of power. However, emerging technologies are shattering these old paradigms and creating opportunities for military advantages that previous generations of strategists never imagined possible. When we talk about NATO's secret weapon, we're not discussing a single piece of equipment or one revolutionary technology. Instead, we're looking at an integrated system of capabilities that work together to create effects that seem almost supernatural to traditional military observers. The foundation of this advantage lies in advanced stealth technologies that go far beyond simple radar evasion. These systems can manipulate multiple spectrums of detection simultaneously, creating what military experts privately call digital invisibility. Consider how radar detection works in traditional military contexts. Aircraft and missiles emit signatures across various frequencies that defense systems are designed to identify and track. Stealth technology has traditionally focused on reducing these signatures through specialized materials and geometric designs. But NATO's latest developments have taken this concept to an entirely different level by actively manipulating the electromagnetic environment itself. Rather than just hiding from detection systems, these new capabilities can actually feed false information to enemy sensors, creating phantom targets while real threats remain completely invisible. The psychological impact of facing an enemy you cannot see or predict cannot be overstated. Military training and doctrine are built around the assumption that you can identify threats, assess their capabilities, and develop appropriate responses. When these fundamental assumptions break down, even the most experienced military personnel can find themselves paralyzed by uncertainty. Russian military commanders have spent their entire careers learning to counter known NATO capabilities. Suddenly facing systems that operate outside their understanding of modern warfare creates a level of strategic confusion that goes beyond simple technological disadvantage. But the invisibility aspect is only one component of this emerging military revolution. NATO has also been developing what intelligence analysts call decision loop disruption technologies. Every military operation relies on a cycle of observation, orientation, decision, and action. Decision and action. The side that can complete this cycle faster while disrupting their opponent's ability to do the same gains an overwhelming advantage. Traditional electronic warfare focused on jamming communications or blinding radar systems. These new capabilities can actually inject false information into enemy command networks, causing military leaders to make decisions based on completely fabricated intelligence. Imagine a scenario where Russian forces believe they're tracking NATO aircraft moving in one direction, while the real aircraft are approaching from a completely different vector. Their response to the phantom threat leaves them vulnerable to the actual attack they never saw coming. This isn't science fiction speculation. This represents the practical application of technologies that have been in development for years within NATO, most classified research programs. The development of these capabilities hasn't happened in isolation. NATO member nations have been coordinating their most advanced research and development efforts through programs that operate under security classifications so high that most government officials don't even know they exist. The United States, United Kingdom, and other key allies have been pooling their most cutting-edge technological resources to create capabilities that no single nation could develop on its own. One of the most significant aspects of this collaborative approach is how it leverages different nations' technological strengths. American advances in artificial intelligence and signal processing combined with British innovations in materials science and electromagnetic manipulation. European research into quantum technologies provides capabilities that traditional encryption and communication systems cannot counter. When these diverse technological advantages work together in integrated systems, they create effects that are greater than the sum of their parts. One of the most significant aspects of this collaborative approach is how it leverages different nations' technological strengths. American advances in artificial intelligence and signal processing, combined with British innovations in materials science and electros science and electromagnetic manipulation. European research into quantum technologies provides capabilities that traditional encryption and communication systems cannot counter. When these diverse technological advantages work together in integrated systems, they create effects that are greater than the sum of their parts. The artificial intelligence component of these systems deserves particular attention because it represents a fundamental shift in how military operations could unfold. Traditional warfare relies on human decision-making supported by technological tools. These new systems can operate at speeds that make human intervention impossible, processing massive amounts of information and executing complex strategies faster than any human commander could even understand what's happening. An AI system can simultaneously coordinate stealth operations, electronic warfare attacks, and information manipulation across multiple theaters of operation while continuously adapting its tactics based on enemy responses. This AI-driven approach creates a new form of military asymmetry that goes beyond simple technological superiority. Even if an opponent understands the general capabilities they're facing, they cannot predict or counter strategies that adapt and evolve faster than human decision-making processes can respond. Russian military doctrine emphasizes centralized command and control structures that assume human commanders will have time to assess situations and issue appropriate orders. Against systems that operate at machine speed with perfect coordination across vast distances, these traditional command structures become critical vulnerabilities rather than strengths. The implications extend far beyond individual battle scenarios. These capabilities could fundamentally alter how nations approach military planning and strategic deterrence. When you cannot reliably detect or predict your opponent's capabilities, traditional military planning becomes nearly impossible. Defense budgets that focus on countering known threats become obsolete when those threats can appear and disappear without warning. Military training programs designed around established tactics and procedures struggle to prepare personnel for scenarios that operate outside their conceptual framework. Consider the economic implications of this shift. Russia has invested enormous resources in developing advanced air defense systems and military technologies designed to counter NATO known capabilities. If those investments become suddenly obsolete due to breakthrough technologies they never anticipated, it creates both immediate tactical disadvantages and long-term strategic problems. The cost of developing countermeasures to unknown capabilities could drain resources from other military priorities, creating cascading effects throughout their entire defense establishment. But perhaps the most significant impact lies in the realm of military psychology and morale. Soldiers and commanders who cannot understand or counter the threats they face experience a form of learned helplessness that can spread throughout military organizations. When your most advanced equipment and best trained personnel prove ineffective against enemy capabilities that seem to violate the laws of physics as you understand them, it creates doubt about every aspect of your military doctrine and preparedness. This psychological dimension explains why these capabilities represent such a potential game changer in geopolitical conflicts. Military effectiveness isn't just about hardware specifications and technical capabilities, it's about confidence, training, and the belief that your forces can accomplish their missions. Technologies that undermine these psychological foundations can defeat enemy forces before traditional fighting even begins. The development timeline for these capabilities has been carefully managed to avoid triggering destabilizing arms races while maintaining strategic advantages. NATO planners understand that revealing too much too quickly could push opponents toward desperate responses or encourage them to pursue destabilizing technologies of their own. The gradual introduction of these capabilities allows for strategic signaling without complete revelation of the full scope of what's being developed. Intelligence suggests that Russian military leadership has become aware that NATO possesses advanced capabilities beyond their current understanding, but they lack specific information about what those capabilities actually entail. This creates a strategic dilemma where they know they face unknown threats, but cannot develop appropriate countermeasures without better intelligence about what they're actually countering. Their attempts to gather this intelligence have largely failed due to the same stealth and deception technologies that make the underlying capabilities so effective. Looking toward future implications, these developments suggest we may be entering an era where traditional concepts of military balance and strategic stability require complete reevaluation. The nation or alliance that achieves decisive advantages in stealth, artificial intelligence, and information manipulation technologies could potentially establish military dominance that would be extremely difficult for opponents to challenge or counter. This isn't necessarily a positive development for global stability. While NATO technological advantages might deter aggressive actions by potential adversaries, they could also encourage those same adversaries to pursue asymmetric responses that could prove even more destabilizing. When conventional military competition becomes hopeless, nations might turn to unconventional approaches including cyber warfare, terrorism, or even weapons of mass destruction as equalizers against superior conventional capabilities. The secrecy surrounding these developments also creates challenges for democratic accountability and public policy discussion. Citizens in NATO nations are being asked to support defense spending and military policies without full understanding of what capabilities their governments are developing or how those capabilities might be used. This information gap makes it difficult for societies to have informed debates about military strategy and its implications for international relations. As we look at current geopolitical tensions, it becomes clear that these technological developments are already influencing strategic calculations, even if their full capabilities remain classified. Russian military planning must now account for unknown NATO capabilities that could render their existing strategies obsolete. This uncertainty forces them into defensive postures and reduces their options for aggressive actions, achieving deterrent effects without revealing specific capabilities. The ultimate question becomes whether these secret weapons will remain secret long enough to maintain their strategic value, or whether their eventual revelation will trigger new forms of military competition that could prove even more destabilizing than the current situation. Technology has always driven military evolution, but the pace of change in artificial intelligence, stealth systems, and information warfare suggests we may be approaching inflection points that could reshape global power structures in ways that previous technological advances never achieved. What we're witnessing represents more than just another step in ongoing military technological development. These capabilities could mark the beginning of a new era in warfare where the side with superior information manipulation and stealth technologies gains advantages so decisive that traditional concepts of military balance become irrelevant. Whether this evolution ultimately contributes to greater stability through deterrence or creates new instabilities through technological disruption remains to be seen. But there's no question that the global strategic landscape is changing in ways that most people don't yet fully comprehend.